Hopefully, you've had the most amazing evening. I always sit here at these events and learn so much. And you might think, what's if I'm a super small business, what I'm going to teach someone running a big business or vice versa, frankly. But I learned so much listening to all of you. And believe me, you're not going to be disappointed with who's bringing us home here. So Asma, you may know her already. I was supposed to bring my prop up, which was one of her amazing cookbooks, which I'm quite excited about. It's beautiful. Kelly, look at that. She is multifaceted. I mean, just even the cover looks amazing, right? I want to eat the cover. Um, so Asma is the force behind Darjeeling Express, a vibrant restaurant right here in London, staffed almost entirely by women. Thank you. She's been featured on Netflix's Chef's Table, named the #1 coolest person in food and drink by Business Insider. Hell yeah. I mean, come on. And honored by Time as one of the 100 most influential people in the world. That's like unbelievable. She's not just a chef, although that would be enough for me. She's also a storyteller, a community builder, and a powerful example of what it means to build with purpose. So, Asma, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
So let's start with your origin story. What inspired you to start Darjeeling Express? What did the early days look like as you got that business up and running?
It never was meant to be a business. This was about passion, about feeling marginalized. I'm an immigrant. I moved to this country when I was 21. And I knew one thing, that food was my language of love. And I did what was expected of me because I grew up in a household with very, very beautiful women. And the presumption was because I was dark and fat that I was smart. So I went to law school. I thought that's the right thing to do. And because, I'm a smart person, I should go to law school. I began at Cambridge and then I switched to King's College. I did a PhD. I had 2 kids. But there was this kind of deep, aching need for me to feel like I wanted to be able to heal and nourish because I didn't know how to cook when I came to this country. I found it incredibly difficult. I found it very isolating. Of course, England 30 years ago was a really shit place. When it came to food, I remember students coming and knocking on my door in Cambridge saying they have got fresh ginger in Sainsbury's. People were weeping holding the ginger. It's as if we had like found God knows what. But I remember that. I remember the kind of fresh ginger. And someone on cardboard written exotic vegetable. They hadn't even bloody written ginger. They just called it an exotic vegetable. And there were all these Asians, crying, weeping as we were holding the ginger because, and what I'll never forget is that there was this really, really very tiny, very sweet Korean student who was very sweetly cutting all the ginger pieces up so that everyone got something. And I think that, those kinds of images, the sense of being uprooted, it was almost like a bereavement when I moved to this country. And of course, considering all of you all have been seeing how incredible technology is today. 30 years ago, I had to write letters to my father. There was no phone call. There was no computer. Right now, people, you can, call your dog in Delhi and have a chat. It's no big deal. At that time, I kept, so the need to cook was not because I wanted to have a business. I wouldn't dare have dreamt that because you cannot be what you cannot see. There was no one, a Muslim immigrant in her 40s, opening a restaurant who didn't have some crazy white tattooed mad male chef as a godfather. You didn't make it. You didn't make it as a female. And as someone who was outside and marginalized, I wouldn't dare think I had the right to open a restaurant. But I knew I could cook, and that's why I began from my house.
Gosh, there's so much there and so much that resonates. Like, I just remember the first time I went to California and saw an avocado, I almost died of shock. I'm like, what is this? And why did we not have this in Northern Ireland? So, anyways, onwards. We could talk about a crazy British food now for a while. Um, Take us back to those early, beyond that, all that beautiful why and purpose. And I do find women found businesses based on lived experiences. So Mary said it well, like they know their shit by the time they get around to finding that business. But we've talked a lot about the emotions behind money. We've heard a lot about funding, the fear of funding. So how did you fund your business? And how did you think about that build? And what's it like now, like from then to now?
We're doing really well. We're hugely successful. We are surviving despite, what's happening with people going out to spend less because of the economy. We pay our team London living wage. We look after everybody. We're just about to get private insurance for everybody. You can be kind and you can be successful. The fact that, especially in hospitality, you saw this during COVID, when people just threw everybody off and abandoned them. Kindness pays off in the end. Never, ever, ever think someone who's kind is weak. I am absolutely made of steel, but I'm kind. And so I, wanted to kind of find a way to do this restaurant. I started off in my own house. Uh, I used to do supper clubs in my house. I got an opportunity to have a restaurant. So I did what, I went to some family who were very wealthy, had some, businesses. The night before they were supposed to give me the money, they decided that this is going to be a joint venture and they were going to take 51% of my business, which was like non-existent at that time. I was about to start. I told them, no, you do not step on my dreams this way. And then I sat and cried because if I didn't pay the money the next day, which is what I was going to get from the funder, uh, I lost the lease. And I'm married to an academic. He's a really nice guy. I'm still married to him. Uh, but I would have got divorced as well. If I tried that technique of you half, me half, it doesn't work. It doesn't work with certain men, huh? So, but I shouldn't say anything about him because I cried so much because when this happened. And I come from the oldest warrior tribe. Women, I'm Rajput. Women in my tribe fought battles. I was always called the warrior princess when I grew up. And I was sitting on the floor crying, and my husband kept passing me and saying, oh, this is not like warrior princess. And he broke his entire savings, 185,000 pounds, and transferred it to me that night and said, Asma, go fly. And I will never ask you what happened to the money. If you sink it, you sink it. But he said, I cannot see someone where your women, your matriarchs, your ancestors are watching you weep. He said, even I cannot take it. And he gave me the money.
You're actually making me cry. I don't know if I've ever cried on stage at a ladies' who lunch event. That's a new one. Um, wow, that's a good man.
Yeah, and then, he's never bothered me again, which is great.
I- yeah, I got one of those too. They know well. So, but what's it like today now when you go? You must still, do you still raise money? Are you still in a fundraising mode? How do you think about it? Or how do you help others when they come to
So,
you?
I mean, of course, COVID was really bad. I went into Covent Garden, which is this beautiful site, because I had to move out of Kingly Court, which was just basically the stupid idea of, eat out and think out and whatever, basically COVID spreader. And people were all eating on the street. We were basically blocked on a second floor. I moved to Covent Garden. And just when COVID ended, the landlord evicted me because the contract allowed that. Because when we've all forgotten that, everyone's talking about. I come from India where people die of malaria. People have been trying to find a malaria vaccine for fucking ages. They haven't found it yet because it affects the poor and affects women and children who are poor. There's been no. So I didn't realize the difference between a COVID vaccine because the rich were dying. That was a big difference. So everyone talked about the vaccine and the vaccine coming out. So we had to have that clause in the contract which said after 18 months we can renegotiate. So after 18 months, I got kicked out, came out of it 300,000 pounds in debt. It was a nightmare. But I did something that I've never heard anyone else do. I had a lot of women who were great supporters of me. I didn't even try to do a fundraiser or, I could have raised money and talked to people. I said, book your table. I'm going to rise like the phoenix that set the world on fire. But when you book a table, so you hold their credit card. I said, I'll take 50 pounds from you if you book for dinner. I'll take 25 pounds from you if you book lunch, if you don't mind. No one objected. That first 1 hour, we had 65,000 pounds in account.
Oh.
And no, and I took that chance and, could have sunk, but we didn't. We struggled. We struggled a lot. It was a nightmare. Uh, I managed to I opened a new restaurant. I did it from scratch. And it was not easy. I don't think I slept a lot. But the one thing that drove me was I could not fail, not because of myself. I could not fail because I wanted a woman in her 40s when I began at 45 to know that you have the right to a second innings. This is not the law of the jungle. Yes, look at my size. You tell me to go chase a deer and catch it in the jungle. Not just a deer, a whole jungle will run away and I will catch nothing. But when is running a business about physical prowess and age? That this kind of ageism meant that when I went to the bank to ask for money in the early days, they laughed at me and said, "What a lovely hobby, Mrs. Khan. Call us to your house for tea." I cried all the way home. Of course, it was bloody raining. I cried and I thought one thing, Ya Allah, make me that name that a woman will give. Say it. When she walks into a room and they laugh at her and say, "This is your hobby." Yes, because I had a PhD in law and I had not run a restaurant. They laughed at me saying it was a hobby. I was tongue-tied. I could say no one's name. My greatest legacy will be not Darjeeling Express and not all the lovely accolades you read out. I am that name. I am that person. I am that restaurant you can name when you go in your 40s into a place and people say you do not have experience. I had life experience. This is my second innings. I'm going to hit every ball out of the park. I will go back into the pavilion victorious. Never ever underestimate women who have life experience. I go looking for them because when the shit hits the fan, they are the ones who have dealt with, you know, unwell partners, with stupid kids, with idiotic neighbors, with nasty mother-in-laws, with, tribal issues, with religious things. Oh, you can't wear this, your leg is showing. We have dealt with all the shit. You want that person who will come up with an idea when things go wrong. And I don't understand. I say this in a lot of places where I go, and I tell, basically, this is nice because it's all women. I tell a room full of white men, go find a woman of color. Go find a woman who's older. Go find a grandmother. God, they're an asset. They will save your ass. But then, problem is that people are still looking for, people who can play Mortal Kombat, and they think they're in a jungle. They think they're having this fight. I mean, I never got picked in any football team. I got picked last. But now, if you need to cook a meal, guess who gets picked first? Me. So you can't always be, you'll be last in some things, you'll be first in one things. It is humiliating when no one wants you to play on their side in a team. I've been through that in school. It's really embarrassing. But, you know, today I'm a hero. And, everybody knows who I am. When I go back to school, everybody comes and hugs me. It's really nice. So it was very tough. And I've been through a lot of grief. And I've been through really difficult times. I've been through loss and fear and isolation. And it was really interesting. I need to say this because I'm very political, and I'm deeply political, and I'm a lawyer, but I've also done politics. I understand when someone is giving me the pushback, like, "Oh, you don't look very Muslim." You think, my God, what do Muslim people look like? Do you have any idea? Anyway, all these kind of things, when they're layered at these levels of stupidity, thinking you don't pick up the racism, the Islamophobia when you make these stupid comments. I, after a chef's table, I had a small restaurant. I had like Danny DeVito, Paul Rudd, Keira Knightley. I mean, I had the whole world in my restaurant. We were struggling because we were dying. We had no storage space. I went to every landlord. So I wasn't bullshitting. I had paid tax for 1 year. I made so much money, it wasn't even a joke because it was a small restaurant, very low rent. And then I was making money like it was flying out of the sky. Not a single landlord, not a single landlord showed me a place. They kept asking me, do you have a business partner? Is it just you? As a single female founder, not a single landlord pre-COVID showed me a site saying it's not suitable. When COVID broke out and all these people came off, many of them men, some female, lost their sites, the same landlords came to me and said, "Oh, we've got this excellent, property." Absolute. I went into a grade 2 listed prime, absolute vintage property in Covent Garden. I told them I want that building, they gave it to me. And I said, I will just take rent for 2 floors, 3 floors will stay empty. But I want my name on the top of that building. And they did it. But I realized then, this was a situation where the COVID had cleared the chessboard. But then I knew one thing. I told the landlord this, I come back as queen. I will come back to the site that I want. They were asking me for my suitable boy. I'm Indian, I understand this. In India, you can't do anything. You go, they'll ask, who's your father? Are you married? God forbid that you're not married. They'll ask you whether you're a lesbian. They are just like, the bias of culture is huge. Please do not think this does not exist in the West. There's a veneer of respectability. They try to cover it. But as a single female trying to set up a business, the kinds of things that are asked to you and the bias that we face, it is real. This is really great, and thank you very much for inviting me and gathering these people. You are not being oversensitive. You're not being fragile. You're not being hysterical. You go push back so hard that they will never do this to another woman. And I know this with the landlord because he met my son. He told me, my God, your mother is a firecracker. Because he'll never get over that. He's not going to give the same bullshit to any other female. He'll hesitate because he'll remember me eating him alive. So it's really important. Don't do this. Don't worry about yourself, you know. You will make it. But think about the legacy for the woman who, like me, tongue-tied, could not say. They told me it was a hobby. They told me to go home. I went back defeated. Today, this is not going to happen to me. But I want to be the person whose name they can give. Also, I go out to places to speak where women are. Do not allow anyone to put you in a box and tell you you don't have a seat on the table, ever.
Wow. So I don't even know where to begin on that. I told you that, first of all, you would hear from women who bring their own lived experience. I told you that you would hear from women's their highs and their lows. It's how women get on stage. I'm still with you, sister, on the older woman showing up. I live in bro culture, Silicon Valley. It's special. And the veneer is very thin most of the time. But there's so much resonates on often, I used to always say, like, when I needed a boost of confidence myself, like if I was in the room having to make an ask, I often couldn't do it for myself, but I have this phrase, I'm doing it on behalf of all womankind.
Yeah.
So like when I was in a room of all men, I used to have to ask a question. You know how women never ask questions? Stick up my hand because I'm like, a woman's voice is going to be heard in this room if I die making it happen. Now, my husband's always like, don't put so much on yourself. And I'm like, I don't know. It's fire in the belly to do it for everyone else as well, because you are forging a path. So thank you for forging a path. There's also just good business learnings in here. What I love is that echo of what Maria said about working capital. She said the Meghan Markle moment, she had 15 bags in stock. She had to get people to prepay. When you brought your restaurant back, you had to get people to prepay. And then Louisa said it very nicely in real financial talk, your working capital, ladies. But sit down, like go home tonight and just have a think about your working capital. And if you're like, I hate that phrase because I'm not a financial person, go talk to ChatGPT about your working capital, because there are these very interesting ways to flip the bit, to get paid in advance. And even if you just took each one of your suppliers out a month, and be kind, because they're in a situation too, and often there's a lot of women in your supply chain, but just have a think where the money sits and they could stretch a bit more, because that distance is your working capital. Most small businesses don't go out of business for lack of cash. They go out of business for lack of cash flow.
Yeah.
Okay, I need a few more because you're amazing. So beyond just what you do in your restaurant, you do so much empowering other women. Like how did that start, and how do you think about that pay it forward moment? And how do you, like, it's clearly been a big marker of your success, this support of others around you, other women, but just other minority groups. So did you do that from day one? And then how have you found it come back, pay back to you? And how would you advise other people sitting right in front of you right now, how they can start that payback right from kind of pound one, dollar one?
So the one thing I realized that it is always women cooking at home. In every culture, but definitely South Asia, from Afghanistan to Sri Lanka, you will find women cooking at home for free. Everybody wants our roti, our bread, for free. But when it comes to money, it's always men because men are given jobs. Even in the kind of really low-level restaurant in Lahore or in Calcutta, in Colombo, it's run by men. Usually it's run by men. Somehow we have lost out. They take our kindness, our food, our love for granted. I want the option to be able to also monetize it. All the women who work for me, I have 3 grandmothers, I have mothers, I have a newly minted mother. She's doing something very unusual. Her husband is staying at home and looking after the baby, and she's working because she earns so much compared to him. And she's getting shit from everybody in her family in India saying, this is so, this, he's no longer masculine because you're going to out to work. And she just told everybody, just, whatever, go away. She's not listening to them. It was very important for me because I noticed one thing, and you'll be surprised when you'll think about this. Whenever there's evidence of racism, sexual harassment, misogyny in high-end restaurants in this country, the silence from the Michelin star female chefs is deafening. If you Google, you will find long pages of articles. Because I'm a lawyer, I know what I can be sued on. And in fact, sometimes I think, let this guy sue me. I will represent myself, I'll clean the floor with him. Because this is, so I'm smart enough to know you don't go for allegations, you go for proved. When it's been proved and it's been established that this act actually happened. There's people who are willing to give evidence. And I realized this, that, for women who make it to the top and throw away the ladder, apart from everything, there's a place in hell where there's chili paste and tandoor. For those women ghee will be drizzled and made into kebab, because absolutely you have no right to not take everybody up with you. I cannot live, I cannot breathe, I am not free if everybody around me is in chains. How do you enjoy your success? Today, I can sit here and say I'm very successful. I'm famous, I'm successful, I'm on TV. In fact, my episode is coming out this evening on Food Network. A lot of things are happening.
Woo!
But I have liberated myself by taking women with me. I am not doing this just for them. I'm not going to kill myself trying to help lots of people and then spend all my time, breathing and worrying about them. But I need to do this because then I know I have left a legacy. I just want to say one thing. I know we're probably running out of time. For all of you who are in powerful positions and you have your name outside the door, your CEO, your CFO, I just want you to think of one thing. God forbid, the day you die, your contents will be put in a box and given to your loved ones. And in a kind of respectable time, someone else's name will be put up there. What is your legacy? My legacy is different. I am sowing a harvest I will not reap. The woman who owns her own restaurant, has an all-female kitchen, she may not be born as yet. But every day, I visualize that girl. Every day, I visualize that woman who walks into a kitchen and owns it. And I have an all-female kitchen and I own it, so I don't have to worry about this is not personal. This is legacy. And when I die, some woman will be able to say, she changed my life. That is your legacy. Remember one thing, there are no pockets in your shroud. You're taking no money with you. You're not taking your CFO and CEO title with you. You are taking nothing with you. But the dreams of girls who are coming after you, imagine you gave them chances. That is why I do what I do.
Okay. You answered the question that we always ask at the end, like, what is the one action you want everyone in the room to take? So I think Asma just said it perfectly, right? She said, don't sit at the table and pull up the ladder. I always say when you get to the big table, the first thing you do is stand up, turn around, stick out a hand, pull someone else up. So same thing. So that legacy is how I want to leave the evening. We're going to move to, thank you. You are an inspiration, total inspiration. I leave. So this is why we do these events. I mean, selfishly, it's amazing. I know you want to say something before I close this out to mix
Not
and
at all. I
mingle.
just want to thank you all. And also, it's very important to think beyond yourself because, you're privileged. You're not hungry. You're not being marginalized. You're not being physically a threat. You could be, but most likely you're not if you're in this room. Uh, just remember that others don't have this privilege. You have a duty of care.
Thank you.